So, hey guys, it's Steve from Exploding Dice Gaming again, and we're going to continue on with our Forgeworld modelling tutorial. So, we've got our Greater Demon here, and we've cleaned up all the components, and they're pretty much all just ready to go. So now it's time to actually start putting her together. So, due to the complexity of this model, I'm actually going to be pinning probably almost all of the joins with this one. Pinning is a really useful and also deceptively easy technique to learn. First of all, you want to get yourself a box of just normal sized paper clips, and then you'll need a 1mm drill bit for your pin vise. First off, you need to drill a hole into your component. It doesn't need to be really deep. In fact, be a little bit careful about going too deep because you don't want to come out the other end. Next, you just need to bend your paper clip straight and pop it in the hole with some glue. Once the glue's dry, you next want to snip the end of the paper clip off, leaving enough sticking out of your component so that it's going to provide a decent area to go into the other side of the join. Drill another hole into the other side, making sure that the hole is going to line up with where your paper clip is, and then just stick it in place with some super glue. This will actually strengthen the join in two ways, by both providing more surface area for the super glue to stick to, and also physically bracing the join with your pin, and this provides you with a much more solid join that's less likely to break if you just knock it by accident whilst it's on the gaming table. I find that paper clips are usually good enough for the vast majority of applications, but if you've got any particularly large or heavy components that you want to make sure are going to be really solid, then you can use some brass rod instead. Or for really fine components like these fingernail talon things, then in this case I use some 0.3mm beading wire, which you can get from hobby stores, and in order to drill the holes for that, then I used a 0.4mm drill bit. But the principle is much the same regardless of how you're doing it or the size of the components you're using. One of the other properties of Forgeworld's resin is that it can actually be quite soft and flexible, particularly if you've got long, thin components like this sword blade. And as a result of that, you might find that you have components that are bent or warped. Now, you can easily correct that, and in order to do that, you need to get yourself a bowl of hot but not boiling water, and you just immerse the component in the water for about 30 seconds maybe, just to give it a chance to heat the material up. And then just take it out of the water and bend it into the correct shape. Hold it there for a few moments and it will sort of re-solidify into the shape that you want. You can also use this method to bend components that are actually straight. So for example, the hair tendrils here, same sort of deal. You just immerse it in the hot water, bend it into the shape you want, and you're good to go. You can also do this using a hairdryer, but it is possible to accidentally damage components by overheating them because you might damage some of the detail. So just be aware of that and be a little bit careful if you're using the hairdryer method. One other thing that probably goes without saying but is worth mentioning anyway, you can't use polycement in order to stick resin components together. You have to use super glue. You can also use two-part epoxy glues like araldite, for example, in order to stick together components that are going to be load-bearing, but for the vast majority of cases, super glue is fine. The thickness of glue will be entirely dependent on the size and weight of the components that you're using, so you obviously use a glue which is going to be suitable for the components that you're actually assembling. And this is what the model looks like when it's fully constructed. I'm going to be pinning it onto the base as well, so that's why it's got a couple of corks stuck to its feet. And I've left off the dreadlocks for ease of painting. So that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll talk about how to fill in some of the gaps that have been left in the joins from the construction process using modelling putty. So we'll see you next time.